Hello. Joining for live video, live cast. Sitting here on my phone, talking to the screen. Hey everyone. Happy Venus Day. It's Friday. It is almost the end of Aquarius season, and we are headed into the watery depths of Pisces this weekend. Hey, welcome. It's so strange to be here with this device and connecting. I always need to remind myself that on the other side of these little avatars and names are living, breathing bodies. Just a reminder that so am I. It's been a long time since I've done a live. Wanted to tune in. I just have a couple thoughts to offer in this shifting moment from Aquarius into Pisces season. Venus, the one whose day it is today. We're in Venus's day, and Venus, of course, is our divine leader of love. Venus is a planet and symbol that connects us to relationship. And here on Earth and maybe everywhere in the universe and the cosmos, relationship is everything. Everything is everything. And the relationships, especially in the signs Aquarius and Pisces, really call us into a recognition of relationship in a big way. Both of these signs are symbols of the interpermeating relationships, the interweaving relationships between forms of life, embodied forms or corporeal forms of life. With Aquarius, we have the symbol of the water bearer. And in our bodies, Aquarius is associated with connective tissues. And tissues, of course, are forms. Aquarius is a fixed form of air. And as a symbol, we might think about its form as conduit for information and for vitality and life force to travel through. In the connective tissues in our bodies, Aquarius is linked to its opposite sign, Leo. And Leo is the ruler of the heart in medical astrology, while Aquarius governs the arteries and the veins, so the circulatory system. And you might know that in your embryonic and fetal development, your veins actually formed around, so the tissues of your arteries and veins formed around the blood that was already there, which I really love to think about as an idea. That connective tissues take shape around what is already there. And this is kind of an interesting idea for Aquarius as a conduit of information. If we think about Aquarius and its association to our connective tissues and circulatory systems, that vitality is already there. And then intelligence wraps itself around vitality in order to distribute that vital force through a whole system. Now Pisces, as an energy and as an embodied kind of symbol, we can feel into as the somewhere between 50 and 70% fluid that our bodies are made of. Of course, they are primarily water, as is the planet that we are part of. We can also think about the qualities of fluid that are mutable. Pisces is a mutable sign, and mutability is the capacity to change form. And so our bodies in their kind of fluid component and fluid volume are also carriers of fluids that are always changing. And so, of course, your blood is constantly cycling through your body. Our hearts are working with our lungs to breathe in conversation, reciprocity with the environment, the air. The plant beings are more than human allies and family and friends. bringing oxygen into our bodies, and our hearts are doing the alchemical work of moving those oxygen molecules into the hemoglobin in our blood. And then our Aquarian systems, our connective tissues, are moving that nourishment into all of our tissues, into every single cell in our bodies. In the realm of embodied astrology, or a kind of somatic or physical orientation to the language of astrology, Mars and Venus are also important symbols when it comes to our circulation. And your arteries are the part of your circulation that pumps the blood out into all of your tissues. It is the pushing part of your heart and circulation system. And arterial flow, arterial strength is governed by Mars symbolically, while the venous return is governed by Venus. And so this idea of pulling back into the heart is something that we might connect with through Venusian principles. And Mars and Venus are traveling really closely together right now. They are both in Aquarius as of today. Venus has entered Aquarius. And next Wednesday, on February 21st, they will form a conjunction in Aquarius. And so for my Aquarian friends or Aquarian placement people out there, if you have natal placements around 6 degrees of Aquarius, those placements are going to get zhuzhed by a little Venus-Mars combo. And this feels like a potential for me in the sense that Venus and Mars, again, if we think about them in their relationship with the circulatory system, they have a lot to do with our projecting and receiving energies in the ways that we move out externally into the world, and also in the ways that we receive and call back in to the interior, subjective and personal. And when Venus and Mars come together, there's a lot of dynamism, a lot of potential romance, a lot of energy, a lot of charge. And they are applying right now, they're moving into the alignment of their conjunction. And so there is a growing kind of frequency in the Aquarius placements in our charts, and also in the Aquarian themes of our lives that are bringing Martial and Venusian potentials into them. And so those potentials, again, are potentials of movement outward and also movement inward. Our external relating and also our internal relating, the ways that we project and take action, and also the ways that we reflect and rest. So I wanted to let you know that next Wednesday, February 21st, I'm going to be offering a special somatic astrology class. Every week I offer classes called Somatic Space, and those classes are usually on Mondays from 8 to 9:30 a.m. Pacific. But next week we're going to have a special class in the evening, 5:30 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. And in that class we're going to be working with Venus and Mars in our bodies and in our Aquarian systems. And so along with circulation and arteries and veins and connective tissues, Aquarius in our systems also connects us with our intelligence, or I should say our intelligences, because we have many different kinds of intelligence. We have mental intelligence, emotional intelligence, psychic, spiritual intelligence. We have the intelligence of our muscles, our bones, our eyeballs, our ears. Every part of our body has its own kind of intelligence. And of course, we are all conduits for intelligences that are bigger than we can personally possess. These kinds of intelligences might flow through us ancestrally or intergenerationally. They certainly flow through our consciousness. So much of what we think and conceive, of course, is borrowed and inherited and relating with the thoughts and the words and the ideas of those and that which is around us. And so when we connect with Aquarius, we are connecting with consciousness and we are connecting with intelligence. We are connecting in our bodies, again, with our circulation, our connective tissues, also our central nervous systems, our central and peripheral nervous systems, our autonomic systems that branch through our whole bodies, and even outside of our bodies. Our nervous systems can perceive beyond the confines of our skin. And we will be in Pisces season by next week. So in this class, we're also going to be tuning in with the relationship of Aquarius to Pisces in the body. And again, Pisces connects us with our fluid intelligences, as well as our spiritual, psychic, and empathic intelligences, the ways that we resonate through feeling. And in medical astrology, or I'm a practitioner of embodied astrology. I'm not a medical practitioner, so I want to make that distinction. But when we're thinking about astrology through the body, we can also connect Pisces with the endocrine system. And the endocrine system is a massively important system in our bodies. It is the system that governs, in many ways, our consciousness entirely, and the state that we are in when we are perceiving. And endocrine is powerful but mighty. It works with our fluid systems. Our endocrine glands secrete hormones. They secrete chemicals into our bloodstream, and those chemicals can entirely transform our experiences. And so you know that you've had experiences that are transformative when you have had an endocrine kind of experience. We have endocrine experiences all the time. If you have a monthly menstrual cycle, as I do, then you might be on a regular monthly fluctuation with your endocrine all the time. And if you don't cycle, you're still on a regular fluctuation with your endocrine system, because our endocrine systems govern our sleep cycles, our metabolic cycles. They have a lot to do with how our bodies age and mature. And they have an enormous amount to do with the ways that we experience emotional activation. And so if you've ever been startled or scared or experienced trauma, then you know the effect of the endocrine system and the ways that it releases stress hormones into your body. And you probably have a sense of what that does to your cognition and perception. If you've ever fallen in love, then you know that endocrine experience, the experience where you don't have to eat, you don't have to sleep, you are just happy and on cloud nine for days. That's endocrine. You're on drugs. Your body has made you drugs. And so next week, we're going to be exploring the space between our nervous and our endocrine systems through gentle somatic exploration and awareness and astrology. And that class is a fundraiser, and 100% of the proceeds are going to be donated to ANERA. ANERA is a non-religious and non-political entity working on the ground in the Middle East, supporting refugees and displaced people in Palestine and Jordan and Lebanon, and they are working really hard right now to bring relief and resource to the folks in Gaza. So please come on next Wednesday. Join me for that class. It's going to be, again, a fundraiser and a benefit for others, but in the spirit of Venus and Mars coming together, it will also be a benefit for us in our bodies and our beings. So you can find information about that through the link in my bio. And I want to talk a little bit about this astrology that's coming up in the next couple of weeks, and why working with our nervous systems and our endocrine systems might be really helpful through this time. And I think I want to start talking about astrology actually just by placing myself in time and space. So, hey, my name is Renee. I am, a person. I'm living in a corporeal form. That means that my perception, my consciousness is limited to what I have been able to grow into and perceive and relate with. And that, of course, means that I am biased and ignorant about a lot of things. And it means that I have my own opinions. So as I speak, please take what works and leave the rest. I am tuning in with this conduit of information, this live channel, on Friday, Venus's Day. It is about 1 p.m. Pacific time, and I am here on the ancestral homelands of many, many peoples, many tribes and bands. In some ways, it's a kind of colonial or like modernity moment to try and make a land acknowledgement, saying the names of groups of people that in a lot of ways have been forced to identify in names because of colonial impact. The peoples that have lived on this lands, like on these lands, as I said, are many. They're still here, still tending the land. I live on the ancestral homelands of the Kalapuya, the Chinook, the Multnomah, many tribes and bands of the Pacific Northwest of the so-called United States. And the land where I am is also home to so much life, so much human life, flora, fauna, huge cedar trees, so many rivers. It's an incredibly beautiful place, and I am so fortunate to be able to live here. And it's also a place where, similar, I imagine, to where you might find yourself, it has been deeply shaped over millennia, right, by forces that are big, that are bigger than any of us can comprehend, forces of time and gravity and atmosphere. And certainly over the last several centuries, this land has been shaped very deeply by colonial impact. And so I'm on the western coast of Turtle Island, and this is a place that was deeply shaped by, ideas like the doctrine of discovery or manifest destiny, colonial terrorism and theft and displacement of indigenous populations. In the state of Oregon, where I live, there's an incredible history of anti-Blackness and white supremacy and racism. Black people were actually not allowed to live here. It was a law in the state of Oregon that Black people couldn't settle here. And that is one of the reasons why this place is still a very deeply racist place, and a place where there is for sure a white body majority. This is a place, like everywhere in the United States, where there is a vast income inequality and really different experiences that people are having in their lives. I just read that in 2024, the United States has 15 million vacant homes, 15 million, while homelessness is at an all-time high, and 500,000 people are without homes right now. So I was like, wow, reading those statistics and thinking 15 million vacant homes and 500,000 people who are houseless. That math is fucked up, and it really, I think, mirrors this state of gross income inequality and the need for redistribution of wealth that is a reality across the globe right now, and very differently manifests in different places. Here, where I live, similar to many places in the world, and probably where you live too, I can feel the impacts of climate change. I live in a place where forest fires and wildfires are becoming a lot more frequent. I live just north of the state of California, where a lot of flooding has been recently, and of course fires and floods go hand in hand. As fires decimate the flora that might help retain groundwater, then when rainy seasons come, there's nothing to stop the flow of that water. And some of you probably know much better than I do how weather cycles work and how weather systems work together. and how wind and heat move together, and how heat and water move together. And so here we are in 2024. We are in an era on Earth that some people have called the Anthropocene. I've also heard this era called the Necrocene or the Afrocene. This is an era on Earth that has been really deeply impacted and deeply shaped by forces of unnecessary death, and the causes of climate change and environmental devastation are totally intrinsically linked with the transatlantic slave trade, with the ongoing institutions of incarceration and enslavement that still happen. When human beings don't take care of each other, they don't take care of the land. And there have been incredible forces for centuries now, really rooted in European and white supremacy, capitalism, patriarchy, that are not about taking care of people and not taking care of land. And those forces, unfortunately, have been forces that held a dominant power. And we are living in the results of that power. And we are living 133 days in to the most current escalation of genocidal terrorism and colonial terrorism that is being imposed upon Palestinians, as well as the more than human life in that area of the world, by a government that is a fascist government that's also funded by the United States, and a military that's funded by the United States. Another statistic that I was reading is that in the first 2 months of Israel's most recent escalation of colonial terrorism, the amount of planetary emissions that resulted from all of the weaponry and the bombs dropped were more than 20 times the annual carbon footprint of the world's most climate vulnerable nations. So here we are in the space between Aquarius season and Pisces season. How can astrology, as a kind of sometimes silly or playful or dreamy feeling practice, help us tune in with the devastating and heartbreaking and immense and overwhelming conditions of what we might call reality? For me, astrology consistently helps me ground in larger cycles of time, and it consistently helps me connect with the ways that my personal embodiment and lived experience are intrinsically and implicitly connected with everything else. And I think a lot of us might talk about this, right? I think a lot of us might talk about things like, oh, we're all connected. Everything is everything. But to really meditate on our interconnections and interpermeations is something that I think astrology can help us do. And in the ways that astrological symbolism relates with bodily energetics and physical locations, so in the ways that I was already talking about, Aquarius connecting us with the nervous system and circulatory and connective tissues, and Pisces being associated with the interstitial fluids and the endocrine, Aquarius connecting us with consciousness, while Pisces connects us with dreams. I think that as we find our ways into these seasons, right? We're in Aquarius season, moving into Pisces season. We're in a season when Venus and Mars are both moving through Aquarius. We can let these symbols speak to us and guide us into spaces of self-reflection, relational awareness and potentiality, and also perspective and possibility with the ways that we take action and don't take action in our lives. And I say take action and don't take action for a reason, because, we all have power. As easy as it is, I think, to forget that sometimes when we are faced with the immensity of power that we kind of don't have control over. We do all have power, and we can misuse our power in different ways, and power can be misused and used against us in different ways. And sometimes the idea of misuse of power, at least in my consciousness, is about doing. But it's really important to remember that misuse of power can also be about not doing. We can misuse our power by not using our power, just like others can misuse their power by not using it, by not calling for ceasefire, by not shifting how they're spending their money, by not calling someone by their preferred pronouns, right? Like, there are so many ways that we can not engage and not really help a movement forward. So many ways that we can not engage and actually block movement. So I really want to presence the ways that we are acting and not acting as sites for our power. We can also not act in certain ways that are about empowering ourselves. I know for me, probably you might relate with this, part of my maturation process, part of getting older, is recognizing where, okay, number one, I'm working too much, I'm working too hard, I'm trying too hard. Maybe anybody out there who's also recently in their 40s is like going through this kind of thing right now, because I've talked to a lot of my friends who are a couple years older than me, and they're all like, Renee, this is it. Like, this is what you get in your 40s. And I'm like, this is amazing. I wish I had had this sooner. This feeling of, fuck it. You know, I don't need to try so hard. I was trying so hard throughout my 30s and my 20s in certain ways that I just realized I don't need to do so much now. And in fact, a lot of how I was trying and how I was doing, not only was it a misuse of my power, but it was blocking me from getting to where I wanted to go. And there is something about relaxing and attuning and listening and connecting and working together with that is allowing my actions to feel not only easier, but more joyful and more generative. So when we think about what we're not doing, you know, that's also potentially a reclaiming or a recalling of power that we may have been misusing in other ways. So in this particular moment, in this particular season, this particular time, one thing that I've been thinking so much about is how all of us, you know, if you're listening to this, then you're here with me. All of us are part of the first in our lineages, the first groups in our lineages to experience life that is digitally and virtually connected in the ways that we are right now. The fact that I can connect through this handheld device, you know, with my entire Google Drive where like a lot of my brain is, you know, all my texts, I can connect with people all over the world, and so much information is flowing through the screen all the time into my eyeballs. You too, right? Like a lot of us have been witnessing genocide live streamed. And this is the first time in our, not just in our lives, but in our lineages, right? In our ancestral inherited epigenetic lineages, that we have had these kinds of experiences where this amount of information and its graphic nature and its decentralized nature can flow into our consciousnesses. So a lot of ways that we could go with this, right? We can worry about misinformation and propaganda. That's a whole conversation lots of folks are talking about. I actually want to talk about the bodily and the physical, the somatic, the spiritual impact of that. And what happens when we intake information that is impacting to our consciousness, and again, in this relational place between Aquarius and Pisces as systems, when our consciousness is impacted, when our thoughts are impacted, our bodies are as well, and our endocrine systems are as well. And when we witness catastrophic violence, our bodies in their intelligences and their mirror neurons and their empathic functionality produce stress hormones. And over time, if we do not have practices to help our bodies integrate and also release and sequence those stress hormones, stress will compound and lodge in our bodies, and it will lodge in ways that look different for everybody, but similar symptoms may emerge, and symptoms can look like states of trauma. States of trauma might have us disassociated and really far outside of our experience. They might have us disassociated and deep inside of our experience, unable to connect out. Either way, whether we can't connect out or we can't connect in, there's a disconnection, and that means that we probably can't connect very well with resource, with relationship, and also with our internal intelligence. States of trauma can look like chronic fatigue and illness and dis-ease in the body. It can look like ongoing stress and tension. It can look like headaches, jaw pain, skin problems. It can look like agitation and irritation in our relationships and with the people that we love. It can look like forgetfulness and inability to concentrate and problems with executive functioning. It can look like so many things. So we are living at a time when we are witness to so much, and we're also not witness to so much, right? The algorithm is working. You're getting some information. You're not getting all information. The algorithm will work to give you more of the kinds of information that you seem to prefer. And so there needs to be an intentional effort right now on all of our parts to fact check, to diversify our information sources and verify what we're seeing, and also to research and investigate and get curious about what's really happening. Because when we're getting information from mediated sources, we are only getting small pieces of perspective. And it is important for all of us to expand our perspective and to consider how the information that we're receiving is part of the total whole of the environments that we are a part of. And so I want to actually move past preference right now and move past the judgments of, truth, always often quite a subjective experience, right? What is true, what is false? But to just kind of acknowledge and accept that anything that we might be perceiving, anything that's coming up in our feeds, anything that's happening in our relationships and our conversations is part of what's here right now. And we could agree, we could disagree, we could think that it's true or false. It is still part of what's here right now. And it's part of the atmosphere. It's part of the environment. So to go back to this relationship between Pisces and Aquarius, one way that a lot of astrologers talk about Pisces is as the everythingness. And the everythingness is the atmosphere. It is the air that you are breathing. Pisces is representative of the residue, right? The end results of everything that has ever happened, and where all of that impact starts to dissolve and become part of the everything that will birth everything else. And because we're part of an environmental field, we are sensitive, porous receivers of what is in the environment. Now, Aquarius, as a system of intelligence and connective tissues, is going to take what we receive from our environment and move it into different channels in our bodies and help us make sense of it. So again, as a sign of fixed air, this is a sign that helps us locate the empowerment in our intelligence. Someone's asking, do you not feel sad knowing the universe is going to die? I don't even know how to answer that question because I don't know if the universe was born. The universe is enormous. It is constantly expanding. It is changing all the time. In many cosmologies and mythologies, when you look for the origin, you will come to the night, right? The chaos, the maelstrom of unknowable, limitless potential. And everything is dying and everything is being birthed all of the time. Watch some Neil deGrasse Tyson or NASA videos, right? And you'll learn that not only is Earth circling, all my respect to the sun. I'm a double Leo. I love the sun. But our sun is also kind of like a small, maybe not so significant star, hanging out at a tip end of one of the Milky Way's arms. And the Milky Way, as its own galaxy, is one of many galaxies spiraling around another center. So I honestly don't know how to answer any kind of question that is about a finality of death, because from my perspective, and again, working with astrology has definitely influenced this a lot for me, there is no death and there is no birth. There is constant circulation of energy. And in that constant circulation, there is evolution and there is potential for change. And we are living in a moment right now when death pervades our consciousness. We are witnessing live-streamed genocide. That genocide has been happening for over 75 years. That genocide is part of a larger genocidal pattern that has been happening for over 5 centuries. That genocide is part of a larger genocidal pattern, and I'm going to say religious delusion that has been killing people and killing land and separating people from land for millennia. And I feel heartbroken because I don't think we are getting to experience or live into the potential of our creative actuality. But I think we're here for a reason. My personal opinion, take it or leave it, I think that we have all been born and are inhabiting these bodies for a reason. And I think those reasons are mysterious for us, at least while we are in these bodies. And we're going to find out later. But we have arrived, you, me, we have arrived for a time on Earth when massive change and transformation is happening. And to keep coming back to the astrology of right now, change that happens in our consciousness, in the ways that we think, in the ways that we language, in the ways that we make sense of symbolism, is then change that happens in our relationships. It's going to change how we perceive one another, how we orient, how we activate. That in turn will change the environment. Now, one drop in the ocean isn't enough to change the whole ocean, but one drop will leak into another drop. And water, right, Pisces as the interstitial fluid, is always circulating. And one drop of a dye or coloring in a glass of water will change the entire hue of the glass. So as we navigate our heartbreak, maybe hopelessness, fear, frustration, failure, hope, right? Inspiration, as we navigate what's going to come up in our lives and at this time, I really want to encourage everybody to approach the moment and your life in this moment as you might approach a dream. And so Pisces, as the Sea of Dreams, right, the symbol of the Sea of Dreams, is a reminder that we live in a phenomenal universe that is totally mysterious and constantly surprising and quite energetic in its intelligence. I've had so many experiences in the last year or so since starting the Somatic Space class. Hope you'll come on Wednesday, because in this class we're doing practices every week that change our nervous systems and that help us especially regulate our autonomic nervous systems. These practices are really beneficial and powerfully impacting for states of trauma. And for trauma healing and integration, they have been enormously beneficial for me over the last year. I started the class because I thought I was getting too heady with my astrology. I wanted to get back into my body, and it has really done that for me. And I've noticed that the results, the consequences of doing this kind of weekly practice for me have included that now I do it more than once a week. So doing it every week now is inspiring me. And I'm like, I feel better on Mondays. I want to feel better on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Friday too. So I've been doing more of these kinds of practices every day. And as I do more of these kinds of practices, my consciousness is changing because I'm working with my nervous system and I'm working with my endocrine system. And that means that my relationships are changing because my embodied patterning, which I got Virgo placements, okay, I can tend to be like pretty stressy, like a little anxious. I know I have like embodied astrology and lead meditations and stuff like that. You might not know it about me, but if you know me, then you'll know I can be kind of stressy and anxious. I can be very like, it can be hard for me to not work. I love my job, but also really identify, as some autistic people do, as being like way more emotionally related with my work than sometimes with other people. And that's been hard for me in my life. That's created some distress. And these practices, doing them every week, have really helped me relationally. They've helped me to regulate myself, to be more patient, to be more kind, to be more loving to myself, and then to the folks in my sphere. And this is coming through in the work that I do. It's coming through in the inspiration and imagination and ideas that I have. It's coming through in my dreams for the future. It's coming through in the ways that I am an activist or think about those kinds of practices. And so I really want to encourage myself and anybody out there who resonates to think about the quality of time right now as you would think about quality of time if you were in a waking dream. And if you've ever done any kind of experimentation with lucid dreaming, or maybe you've just found yourself in this kind of opportunity in a deep meditation, or maybe you experience this in your life all the time, when you think something, the landscape changes. So if you've had a dream and, like everything's fine, and then you think about a problem, right? And then all of a sudden in the dream, you're in the problem. Or you have a dream and someone's chasing you and you're feeling scared, and then like you think about something that's peaceful, or you access something in yourself and then whoof, it dissolves. Think about your life right now as a thought inside the dream, and let go of any idea that the dream is going to change in the ways that you want it to, right? Because we don't get to be in control of our dreams. The dreams are emerging from the source of the dreams, and we don't get to know what the source of the dream is. But we can collaborate with the dreams. We can be artists inside the dreams. We can be dancers. We can be players. We can invite receptivity to the symbolism and kind of, playful orientation to how we might want to move, how we might want to focus or direct our ideas of possibility. We are at the precipice of Pisces season, and over the course of Pisces season, all the personal planets and the luminaries, the sun and the moon, will all travel through the sign, and they'll all contact Saturn and Neptune as they move through Pisces, and then they're going to move into Aries. And Saturn is a symbol of form. Neptune is a symbol of dissolve. Pisces is a symbol of the end, and Aries is a symbol of the beginning. Over the course of the next couple of weeks through Pisces season, we are all invited to navigate this journey, and maybe if you meditate with your Pisces placements, there might be a little bit more specific location for your navigation. But in general, as an energetic idea, think about where are the forms of the dream right now that you're experiencing that you want to encourage to dissolve? What are the forms that are here that feel confining, that in their form don't serve life, don't serve love, don't serve liberation. How might those forms dissolve? And then that's the meditation. The meditation is in the thoughts and in the consciousness and in the emotional activations and in the psychic and spiritual volition that you have access to. Your meditation is to think about, how could this become undone? And in the undoing, right, here's our link back to empowering ourselves by checking in with misuse of power is sometimes the doing that we don't need to do. So how can we undo the ways that we might uphold forms that don't serve us? And the wisdom of somatics, I think, is really important here, and a really kind of essential, crucial piece of repatterning in many somatic methodologies is that support precedes movement. And so to undo a dysfunctional pattern, sometimes we need to offer ourselves, frequently we need to offer ourselves alternatives to that dysfunction, other ways to orient our energy so that we have an easy transition, or maybe not easy, but something that has more ease inside of it, easeful. In the undoing, what will help you? What will resource you? So if I find that as I am heartbroken and grieving that the country that I live in and its government is taking 30 cents of every dollar I spend and killing children, destroying land with that resource, and I want that undone, and me and my body has like zero power, to change how the United States economy works, I can still tune in with that desire to, how do I undo that? I want to undo that part of the dream. I don't want to participate in it. Where are the ways that I'm linked to it? Well, some of the ways that I'm linked to it might be in my unconscious spending, in the ways that I organize and orient with my tax processes, etc. And so then I'm going to clue into my Aquarius intelligences, right? I need information. Lots of information out there right now in the divest and boycott movement around how to move your money, right? Lots of information about, even if you don't want to become, I'm forgetting the word, even if you don't want to refuse to pay your taxes or something because it might end up in trouble for you. I've been looking into that. There are lots of ways that you can organize your financial flow throughout the year, right? So especially if you're a business owner like I am, so you direct your money to the organizations that you want to put that money into throughout the year, so that by the end of the year, you don't have too much profit that they're going to be taxing you on and taking for their war. Lots of ways that we can divest, lots of ways that we can boycott. I had signed up for a credit card a year or two ago because I wanted the mileage points. That credit card was a Bank of America card. Bank of America, funding fossil fuels and genocide, canceled my account the other day because I felt supported to, because I'd done some research on the internet and found out that I could get a different credit card, a green credit card that was going to also give me points for travel while funding green power initiatives and not funding fossil fuel. Aquarius intelligence. I had to research. I had to lift my consciousness a little bit, and then I could change something. That change isn't the total change that the world needs. It's one drop in the ocean. But here I am telling you, maybe you got a credit card you want to move to. Pisces season will start in a couple days on Sunday, and at the end of February, on February 28th, we have a triple conjunction, Mercury, Saturn, and the Sun all coming together. And so in this new beginning, this new cycle, Mercury is traveling direct, so is Saturn. They are both forming conjunctions with the Sun. This is a renewal of solar energy and consciousness. In this triple conjunction, there's a lot of support for us to be thinking about finality and ending. What don't we want to do anymore? If you tuned in with Embodied Astrology's 2024 Year Ahead overview, you can find that for free on Spotify and YouTube, or if you found your 2024 reading for your sign, for your sun, rising, or moon signs, I was talking a lot about the quality of 2024 and this time being a time of endings and beginnings, dyings and birthings. They're happening at the same time. And what we don't want to do anymore is, of course, inextricably linked to what we want more of and what we want to birth. And I want to encourage you as we tune in with the current celestial energy to really be thinking about what is the change that you want to see, especially with the no's, the no that you have, no more, not that, and what are the yeses that you have. And in your consciousness, right, in your thoughts, in your words, in your language, in the way that you direct your attention to information, how can you support yourself to give yourself more yes and less no? And then in your energy, how can you support yourself? And this is the work of somatic repatterning. This is the work of mind-body coherence and integration. And so again, I hope you'll come on Wednesday to Somatic Space or tune in with any somatic guides that you have to help you do that embodied work of, oh, that's a no and this is a yes. This is how I can support my embodied state of vitality. This is how I can reduce my embodied state of distress. And let astrology work with you. Let it support you. So using astrology is one way that we can support ourselves to engage with the world around us poetically, with inspiration and symbolism, and also in ways that we might find a little bit more personal agency and empowerment, especially as we can tune in with where are these energies moving in our own charts. So as a Leo rising person, I have Aquarius in my 7th house of relationship and Pisces in my 8th house of shared resources. And so I'm really thinking about how do I work in those areas of my life specifically to activate and participate and fortify with where I want to see more yes, right? And also where I want to enact boundaries and where I want to say no. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope any or all of that is helpful or feels interesting to you. Your Pisces season ahead readings are going to get published this Sunday. So tune in with the Embodied Astrology podcast and get your sign-specific readings for your sun, moon, rising signs for Pisces season. You can also check out your 2024 year ahead readings. Those are epic. They were like 4 hours for each sign. They have a channeled reading and all kinds of detail going through the dates. And also tune in with EA because we have a year or 16 months of programming beginning with the vernal equinox and astrological new year at the beginning of Aries season, end of March, coming up really soon. And we have amazing offerings this year. I'm really excited. I know that it's going to totally change my life. I've been thinking about that a lot and talking with the other facilitators at Embodied Astrology. And I was just talking with Sherry Taylor yesterday, and we were talking about how this is going to change our lives. This is going to change our lives. Going through the 16-month program will change us cellularly. It will change us consciously, mentally, emotionally, physically, psychically, spiritually, relationally. And in the ways that it changes us as individuals, it also changes us as societies. Sending you love. Be well out there. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to one another. If you feel inspired, leave a comment and let me know where Aquarius and Pisces are in your charts and what you are saying yes to and what you are saying no to, and maybe some of the ways that you are bringing that into being. Bye for now.